On today's episode of Phinside The NFL, are the Miami Dolphins planning on taking their QB3 on day 3 of the NFL draft? We will discuss that. Also, did the Miami Dolphins meet with one of my top prospects and the top offensive line prospect, in my opinion, recently? We will talk about that. Also, I unveiled it on X. I'll unveil it here on YouTube. We will go over my man crush list, the 5th annual Phinside the NFL man crush list for the 2025 NFL draft. Do me the favor, smash that like button. Smash it, smash it, smash it. Subscribe if you are new. And as always, let's get into this.
Loses the football. The touchdown. Got it.
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown.
And he will score. Field down the near side, man open. Touchdown. The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown.
He's going deep. It's not over the touchdown. Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. And we are back here for another one. Appreciate each and every one of you coming through on this Monday. I need you to do me a huge favor. Smash that like button. Before we went live, I had some people hit me up. I confirmed. I had some other people confirm. For some reason, before we went live, YouTube was not registering likes on this video. So people were able to see their likes registered on other videos, but when they were hitting the like button on this, it just was not registering. I confirmed it myself. So, hey, man, smash that like button. Maybe they eventually do register. YouTube is a very, very wonky game. Man, I could tell you some stories where, listen, there's legitimate evidence that none of y'all know about because I've never really complained about or put it out there. There is legitimate evidence that, you know, they have been and are playing around with my channel and have been for about the last year and a half, 2 years. All right. Like I could tell you some stories, man. I've had streams where I've gained 50, 60 subscribers by the end of the stream. And then you go back and you check a couple hours later and 20 to 40 of those new subscribers have been lost, and they're not bots because it would be happening day after day after day after day. It wasn't realistic. Let's put it out there. So, and there's a much more deeper than that. I could sit here and do a whole hour show about what y'all don't know about what's happened behind the scenes with YouTube and how many times I've contacted them, how many times I've caught things that don't make sense. I mean, I'll give you another example. I've done live streams like this. Okay, you know, we finish around 6:30, whatever, right? I'll keep checking, the views will keep going. Then about 9:30, all of a sudden, views will just stop. And then views, you know, I've had sometimes videos go 18 hours without a view. And they tell me, oh, well, we have a system error on our end. We're working on it. Then all of a sudden, the views start accumulating after 18 hours. Like, there is some real stuff that goes on behind the scenes with this. I'm telling y'all, like, it's very, very suspect. There's some very suspect stuff that goes on behind the scenes with YouTube. But it's bad enough they already take 30% of everything. Whether it's a donation, ad revenue, they take 30% right off the top. So, yeah, it's already bad enough that they take that big of a fee, and then they have the wonkiness. I mean, I'm gonna be real here. if I should have cleared 20K like a year ago. Like, if you knew what I knew, if you knew what FinHub, my graphic guy, knows, because he knows he's been behind the scenes, everything, EM Dolphin fan, if you knew what they knew that I've gone through behind the scenes, they'd tell you the same thing. So smash that like button, because once again, YouTube is being fugazi. So appreciate y'all for coming through. We got a lot to go over today. First things first, all you fans. All right? All you Miami, Hurricane fans. We got to have a conversation. I wasn't uber high on him to begin with. Now, I do think he plays faster than what happened today. But remember, these are also pro day numbers, and pro day numbers get ballooned, okay? That's just naturally what happens. They just naturally get ballooned. All right? That's just all there is to it. But, man, I will tell you this. Xavier, Restrepo, wow. It was not good today. In case you didn't see what happened today, it just wasn't good for him. We're talking about unofficially clocked running a 40 at 4.76 and 4.83 in 2 different attempts. Like, it was not good for Xavier Restrepo today, like, at all. Like, his draft stock freaking tanked today. And I know a lot of, Dolphin fans or Hurricane fans, and, and then he had a 4.21 20-yard shuttle. That's like 56th percentile. It's not good. Like, no, Landry wasn't this slow, bro. Landry was not in the 4.8s. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure he's like 4.6, wasn't he? Well, he ran a 4.77. What was it? I don't know. I think it was like, what was it? A 4. I know he's been clocked at 4.58. Had Jarvis Landry. But I know at the combine he ran 4.77, if I remember correctly. It wasn't good. But we're talking like 4.83. That's even slower than 4.77. Like, that's like, like, we're going from, think of it. You're going from, like, that's 0.06. That's terrible. And Landry, check this one out. I'll do you one better. Landry was a 4.77 at a combine. This guy is running a 4. This is at a pro day, people. I know everyone's not a draft nerd or whatever thing, but pro day numbers are usually juiced. And the 4.21 is bad, terrible. Like, the 4.21 20-yard shuttle is terrible. Let me see what Landry's. I don't remember what Landry's shuttle was. Yeah, his shuttle was brutal too. What, 4.59? He had a terrible Raz. My lord. Whew. Man, that's terrible. I'm going to be honest with you. I also had Xavier Restrepo. Like, I don't have him as a top 10 receiver in this class anyway, so it is what it is. I'm a fan. Like, he's been my top 15, but man, that is brutal. I'm sorry, man. Like, there's just so much in today's NFL. Would Landry still go in the second round? I don't think so. Remember, you're talking about some guys in this class, like, that can move too. When you get into those, when you get outside the top guys, you got some guys that can move a little bit too, right? In this class. So now Isaiah Bond didn't run the 4.1 that he said he would, but what was he, 4.4? Jalen Noel can move. Jaden Higgins can move. Jack Besh can move. You know, Savion Williams for his size can really move. I think Torrey Horton's better. Tay Felton can move. You know, I think a guy who's really being slept on is Kyle Williams out of Washington State. You know, that's the problem. You're getting into, like, there's not a lot of guys in that upper tier that can't move really well. Like, even look at the top guys. Tat McMillan moves really well for guy size. Matthew Golden is obviously arguably the most explosive receiver in this class. Luther Burden can really move. You know? Like, there's only a couple guys that, you know? So, and I'm going to tell you this. I'm taking Savion Williams 7 days a week and 7 times a week and twice on Sundays over Xavier Restrepo. I'm taking Jack Besh, can fall into the same thing. Jalen Noel or Jaden Higgins, same thing. I'm taking them. You know, now Trey Harris is another guy who isn't fast, but, you know, I would take Trey Harris over, you know, all day over Xavier Restrepo. I'm not lying here. Alik Eminyor. Man, you could probably even talk me into Torrey Holton. You could talk me into Kyle Williams all day over him. All day I'll take Kyle Williams over him. I think he's slept on. You could probably talk me into Tay Felton. Now, you couldn't talk me into Tez Johnson over him, because Tez Johnson needs to be another. Like, I mean, you know, my boy Ricky White, he didn't test very well. You know, and he kind of follows that Jalen Lane. Maybe you could probably talk me into Jalen Lane over Xavier Restrepo, because at least I know I got that crazy speed. Every Noodle says, I don't trust TCU receivers. Man, I'm telling you, I think Savion and Jack Besh, one or both of them are going to change that narrative, my friend. Savion just is like, Savion's like Debo on steroids. I feel like, at least. You know, man, I'm a big fan of Savion Williams, and everyone knows this, and you'll see why everyone knows this already, but I've talked about him a ton on here. But, man, you're talking about a 4.48. You're just talking about a guy who's, man, Savion Williams, he is just 4.48. Over 6'3.5", 222 pounds. I love it. I love it. I love what Savion offers me. Yeah. Savion was a dog in college. I think Jack Besh, I really like Jack Besh's profile. I really like Jack Besh too. Man, I think those hands are so sturdy. You know, like, I really honestly do. And he's another one, what, 6'1", 214. You know, his broad was like over 10 feet. Had a really good 3-cone. It was like 6'8", 6'4", I think. So Besh is a really good one too. Honestly, can I be honest with you? Like, I'm going to be real with you. And I'm talking, we're having this conversation now because every Noodle brought it up. Talking about not trusting TCU receivers. Here's a question, okay? I got a really good one for all you draft heads. Who are you taking? If you could take a duo, who are you taking? Are you taking Savion and Jack Besh? Or are you taking the Iowa State boys, right, in Jalen Noel, as well as, obviously, Jaden Higgins? That's the real question. Who are you taking? That's a real good, because those are, let's put a poll up on that. We're going to do a couple polls today. Which college wide receiver duo are you taking? Let's put it in this chat right here. All right, we'll go Higgins, Noel, and we'll go Savion and Besh. Put it in the chat. I mean, I don't know, man. Man, that's a good one. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm probably taking Higgins and Noel. You know, I probably am. Man, Savion and Jaden, you know, they're like so neck and neck for me in terms of where I would rank them. You know, I think that's, man, I think that's a really, really good question. And thank you, Xavier Restrepo, for bringing that up. Let's keep with the draft here. Let's talk about quarterbacks. Deion Sanders. He basically said today that he wants to see Shedeur Sanders in New York. Now, whether that's as a Giant or as a Jet, because I don't know if you've seen this, but some of the new mock drafts, they've got Jackson Dart going as high as 7 to the Jets. Like, it's crazy. This man is climbing right now. This man is climbing to the top. But Shedeur, man, does he really want to go to the Jets? I mean, is that what you want? You really want to go to the... Now, even the Giants are a disaster right now. Brian Daboll and the GM could be gone next year. Right? Like, they could be gone. So, I don't know. Shedeur wanted to go to New York. I think that's, I mean, hey, like, you know, good for you. You know, I like it. I mean, I guess. But I think it's nuts. I think this is, I think the fact that this guy is thinking about wanting to go to New York, put that kind of spotlight on him, put that kind of pressure on him, you know, I think is nuts. You know, I like, you want to go, you want to go to New York where the Giants are either going to blow everything up. Like, let's be real here. The Giants are either going to blow everything up. Like, that's pretty much a fact. Or, I mean, like, you know, like, that's what I don't get here. You're either going to go to the Giants where everything's going to get blown up. Or you are going to go back and you're going to go to the Jets where Aaron Glenn is your head coach, okay? Aaron Glenn is your head coach. First-time head coach. I don't like, I think that's nuts. And it's not an offensive-minded head coach either for you. Like, I think that's crazy, man. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's crazy. I honestly do. But hey, to each their own, I guess. Holy jeez. So, I don't know. I think again, what is it? It's Deion wants his son in the limelight instead of taking the smart route. Like, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm Deion, like, I want my kid, I'm going to be honest with you. I might want my kid to fall out of the top. Like, I know the money ain't the same, but I might want him to fall out or someone move up. Like, let's be real here. Like, I'd want my kid to go number 1 overall to Tennessee, but Cam's going there. I wouldn't want to go to Cleveland. I wouldn't want to go to New York. New England has Drake May. Jacksonville, they have the court. I'd rather go to Vegas with Pete Carroll than the Giants or the Browns. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. Las Vegas is probably the only team in the top 10 I would want if I couldn't get Tennessee. You don't want to go to New Orleans because that's just always going to be a cap health situation. When are they going to figure that out? Falling to 14 in Indianapolis, taking you to compete with Anthony Richardson would be interesting. But then beyond that, I mean, where? Seattle, Pittsburgh. That would be a good situation for Shedeur's Pittsburgh. That would be a better situation. If I'm Dion, I'm trying to get Pittsburgh to trade up. That would be a better situation for sure. 110%. But I ain't trying to go to Cleveland. I ain't trying to go to either New York. I don't know what Shedeur's out here what Dion's out here talking about. I don't think they're going to replace Kyler. I mean, I'd be down. Like, I'd go to Arizona if I was a young quarterback. But the problem with going to Arizona for a guy like Shedeur is he's not the athlete, near the athlete Kyler is. That's just what it is. Yeah. No, I don't agree with that. I think Tennessee structurally is getting things in place better. I think Dabble and that GM are going to be gone in New York, so that's going to be a crap show. You don't know what's going to happen to them when the new GM and coach come in. All of a sudden, a year drafted in, you're not their guy. So that's a murky situation. And then with the Jets, I mean they just had Aaron Rodgers and look how bad it went for them. Do you really think Aaron Glenn's going to turn that situation around right now? Let's be real here. Justin Fields is their quarterback. They ain't going to turn nothing around. Tennessee is at least structurally in the front office, getting things correctly, and then on the field, and their coaching staff they're getting correctly. That's a team heading in. They look like they're heading in the right direction. Out of those three teams, I would take them, and I would take the Raiders over them too, which I never thought I would say. The Raiders and the Titans are heading in a way better direction than both New York teams, in my opinion. I'd go play under Pete Carroll. I wouldn't go to Cleveland. Look at what they did to Baker. And I will tell you right now, Baker's the better quarterback, will be the better quarterback, and was the much better prospect coming out. Look what they did to Baker. People forget before Justin Herbert, who set the record for the most touchdown passes as a rookie? Baker. Right? People forget this. And then I had my platform because I'm a big Baker guy. Everyone knows this. I wanted Baker to come here before he went to Tampa to compete with Tua. And I said, if he beats out Tua, so be it. It's the Baker Mayfield show in Miami, baby. Let's go. I've been saying that. I'm a Baker guy. All right? They did that man so dirty. And I said to them, why, speaking of Jarvis Landry, I said, my platform was around. Go find the receipts. I said them adding OBJ was the worst thing possible for a guy like Baker because he's going to feel forced to throw to him, and look at the rhythm him and Jarvis had just created the year prior. And what happened? OBJ never worked out, held back Baker a little bit, right? Instead of developing as a guy going through your progressions, reading defenses, this guy was forced to just, no matter what progression he was, where's OBJ on the field? Where they were building something organic before OBJ got there. And with Stefanski, I just think that was all messed up. So, yeah, if I was Shedeur, I wouldn't want to go there at all. I'd say, are you crazy? No. If you couldn't make it work with Baker, you ain't going to make it work with Shedeur. I'm going to be the first one to tell you that. Sorry. Because if Baker was in this draft, it would be Baker and Cam Ward as the top two, and it wouldn't even be close. Just like it's not close right now with Cam Ward and Shedeur. I don't care what anyone tries to tell me. I have Dart over him. And I've said this before. You want to hear something? I'll tell you this right now. I've said this before. If Tyler Show wasn't going to be 26 and didn't have the injury history, him and Dart would be battling for number 2 on my board. So that would make Shedeur 4. At best. Like, there's caveats to this draft class, especially at quarterback for me, and especially with Shedeur. Like, there's reasons why Shedeur to me. And like, let's be honest, if Ewers stayed on the trajectory everyone's expecting him to stay on heading into this past season, Ewers would be would be probably 4 on the list behind Show in that hypothetical I just gave you and Dart. So Shedeur would be 5. But the chips fell in Shedeur's way this season. So he's 3 for me. Let's go. So let's get into this. We got a lot to go over here. All right. First thing first, we're talking about drafting. I want to talk about my man crush list. I drop it every year. Here's the 5th annual. And this is who I have. These are my man crushes of the 2025 NFL draft. Everyone's known Jackson Dart and Kyle McCord. They've been my dudes for months upon months upon months. When I basically found out Nussmeier wasn't going to be declaring, McCord slid right in there. Seth Hennigan was another guy vying for there. At running back, Caleb Johnson, man. I think behind Ashton Jeanty, Caleb Johnson is the second best running back in this class. I know everyone loves Trayvon Henderson. I like Quinshon Judkins. He almost made this. But another guy I love too, and I've talked about him, is Bashal Tutin. You guys all saw how well he tested at the Combine. You know, I hyped it up that morning that he was going to test well. He blew the Combine doors off. Bashal Tutin, oh man, he's an explosive player. That guy cleans up fumbleitis. He's a legit number 1 running back in this NFL, in the NFL, and he could be something. Wide receiver, I got Tet McMillan and Savion Williams. Now, Ricky White I could have put there instead of Tet McMillan, or even Jaden Higgins. I really love Jaden Higgins' tape, but Tet McMillan, I've been saying since like September that he's the perfect fit for what we want, opposite of speed. When everyone thought he was a lock to go to the Patriots, now he might be on the board for us because he's another prospect that's been overthought. You know, man, if you're got plans to move off Tyreek or trade Tyreek and Tet's on the board, that's a tough decision. Savion Williams, a reason why I want us to add some selections between 48 and 98 is this guy. I would love adding him to that receiver room. Unbelievable. Tight end Luke Lachey. I thought he was going to come out last year. Injuries have really held him back. But, man, he tested well at the Combine. You guys know he's been a man crush of mine for a couple of years. Big Luke Lachey guy. Gunnar Helm. I mean, talk about a competitor. You know, we all wondered why his 40 was a little slower than we wanted it to be. And then what happened? We find out it's because his ankle was sprained and ballooned. And that's why he didn't test as well as we wanted him to. Because you look on the film, he's a 4'6" guy. He'll literally, you can find multiple instances of him on film, you know, just hurdling defenders like it's no issue. He can block. Gunnar Helm is a complete guy, man. I love him. At tackle, Armand Membou. He was the dream, and then the Combine happened, and it became a pipe dream at 13. You know, what haven't I said about Armand Membou on this channel? He's my tackle 1. Absolute beast. Another one here, I'm not going to get too much into, well, I guess I will because I don't know if we'll be doing my tackle board, but Anthony Belton, he is a fantastic player. I think he's underrated in this class. He's my 9th tackle out of North Dakota State. I'm just a big fan of him. He's a workhorse. He's a worker. I love him, man. I think Anthony Belton, I mean, he got guard potential. I think he's got tackle potential. I'm just a big fan. At guard, Jonas Savaianea. I mean, everyone knows how much I love this guy. Nasty demeanor. Can move really well for his size. You know, gives you that right guard, right tackle flexibility, you know, because of his athleticism and his high football IQ. I'm sure he could work at left guard too if you wanted to. He wants to play guard at the next level. I can't wait to drop my guard big board this week because I will talk about him. And also my other man crush, Clay Webb. Big fan of Clay Webb. Big fan of Clay Webb. I don't think he's a guy. I think he's another guy not getting enough love in this class, obviously because he's out of Jacksonville State, you know. So, but I mean, you know, you talk about his football IQ is out of this world when you watch him. He moves so well in space. I'm just a big fan of Clay Webb. Two guys that could have vied for that spot were Jackson Slater out of Sacramento State, as well as Luke Kandra out of Cincinnati. Two other guys I really like. At center, Jake Majors out of Texas. He's probably a lot of people's consensus center one, I would say. He's a good player. But then again, it depends on what guards you have converting to center, et cetera, right? But he's a good player. People might have Seth McLaughlin a little higher than him. I'm a big fan of Jake Majors. He's actually my center one. My center two is another guy I like. He's a guard that I convert to center. Joshua Gray out of Oregon State. Those are my two top centers in this draft. At defensive tackle, Kenneth Grant, Deion Walker. I mean, I've gushed about these guys so much. You guys know what time it is. Kenneth Grant is my DT1. I think the sky's the limit with that guy. He's an alien for his size. And then obviously Deion Walker, man, if he gets under some good coaching, that guy's going to be never mind a people mover. He's going to be an earth mover. Two guys that could have vied to make this list. I really like CJ West out of Indiana, and I really like Aeneas Peebles out of Virginia Tech. So they could have made that as well. At edge, Mike Green out of Marshall. Absolute stud. Going to go in the first round. I think another guy who can sneak into the first round is my other man crush at edge here. Out of Boston College, Brian Flores, where are you at? And that's Donovan Ezeraku. He is a beast. A couple other guys I really liked at this position. I really like Princely out of Ole Miss and Savion Jones out of LSU. But the guy who was going to make this list and ended up just not making the cut, I really like David Walker out of Central Arkansas. I think he's being pretty well slept on. I think he's a guy you could get, you might have to spend 98. I don't think people sleep on him that long. I think the media is sleeping on him more than the NFL is. At linebacker, Demetrius Knight Jr. out of South Carolina and Chris Paul Jr. out of Ole Miss. Chris Paul didn't test as well as we would have liked. That's for sure. But man, I just, I knew he was going to be undersized. I just like the film, man. I like the player. Demetrius Knight, now he tested really well, over 6'1.5", 235, but he ran a 4.58 40, a 2.88 20-yard split, and a 1.58 10-yard split. Shuttle was 4.25. I love Demetrius Knight if you could add him to that linebacker crew. Oof, come on. At corner, Will Johnson. Will Johnson is that dude. Will Johnson is that dude. Man, listen. There are plenty instances on film where, guess what? I don't need to see him test or his 40 time because I've seen the sideline to sideline speed and movement. I've seen this man chase down ball carriers. He had no business because he was on the other opposite end of the field and he comes across. Unbelievable. And then another guy who I think is just not getting enough love, and I'm showing him some love because he's making my man crush list, is Trey Amos. I mean, man, just over 6'1.5", 195, had a broad jump of 10 foot 6 inches, 4.43 40 speed, a 2.57 20-yard split, a 1.53 10-yard split, and the tape is really good. I am a fan of Trey Amos, man. Listen, if you end up taking Kenneth Grant or if you end up taking someone else at 13 and you're waiting till 48 to take a corner and Trey Amos is on the board, pull that trigger, baby. I'm down. He's a stud. And then at safety, Nick Emmanwori, we've talked about him on this channel for months and months and months. He tested, and now everyone talks about him. Big fan of him. The vision was to get him with the 48th pick, whether at 48 or to trade up. maybe he sticks around in the late 20s, but he ain't making it. If he makes it into day 2, he ain't making it very far into day 2. And then another guy, the safety class, it's really not that deep. And, I like Andrew Makuba, aside from Malachi Starks and Emmanuel Wari. He's my third guy in this class. Jonas Sanker and Billy Bowman, they're okay. My issues with Billy Bowman, I've talked about his tackling. It's just a real issue when you watch it on film. It's not very good. Now, I know people like Malachi Moore as well, but I'm just not a fan of this overall safety class. But Hunter Wooler, he's a guy I like as a sleeper on day 3 if he's still on the board. So that is my man crush list for the 2025 NFL draft. Always fun doing those. Man, I've had that thing ready to go for like a month. I'm not even lying. I used to wait till April. Then last year, I'm like, why am I waiting like a month and a half when I've had this ready to go? And then I pushed it to like the end of March. Now, I moved it up like 7 or 8 days earlier than what I dropped it last year because, like, man, what are we doing here? I had this ready to go for a really long time. So, hey, there's some real studs on that list. There's some real studs. And every year, remember, the Miami Dolphins usually take someone who makes my man crush list. Right? When you do the math, every year since I've had this channel, now I'm watching me jinx it now, but every year, right? 2020, they took Tua Tagovailoa and Curtis Weaver. 2021, they took Javon Holland. 2022, they took Devon Achane. 2023, they took Chop Robinson and Jalen Wright. Every year since I've had this channel, they've taken a player that has been on my man crush list. So it's kind of crazy. So we'll see if they take 1 or 2 this year. That's basically what it's down, right? I've had 2 years of 2 and I've had 2 years of 1. So, yeah, we'll see. I love it though, huh? Don't you love it? Kind of crazy when you think about it, huh? Kind of crazy when you think about it. So we'll see. What do they bring to the table this year? What do they bring to the table this year? Man, imagine if we would have got Zach Frazier last year where I wanted. Oof, holy jeez. Holy jeez. All right. So let's keep it moving. I found something interesting in reading about the Missouri Pro Day. Another guy who almost made that corner list in the man crush list is Azariah Thomas. I'm a big fan of him too. So check this one out. Very, very interesting in regards to one of my favorite players in this draft and my top offensive lineman. All right. Interesting here. It seems like the Dolphins have met with Armand Membou. Though I am waiting for numbers and additional information from the Mizzou Pro Day, there was a noteworthy news to pass on. Some were shocked when Tony Pauline had offensive tackle Armand Membou going to the New England Patriots in his most recent mock, which he released on Friday. Membou's draft stock has been on a straight shot north since the 2024 season and accelerated with his measurements at the Senior Bowl, then took off at the Combine. Though he did not participate in the Senior Bowl practice for what was deemed food poisoning, Membou arrived and measured at 6'3", 3/4", 332 pounds, and with arms that are 34 inches long. Oh my Lord. He was amazing at the Combine. Had a 4.91 40-yard dash, 10-yard split of 1.69 seconds, 31 reps on the bench, and 34 inches in the vertical jump, as well as a 9'7" in the broad. Membou was fantastic in position drills. I'm told just about there you go. told just about every team in the top 15 has met with Membou and spent extensive time with him over the past month via sit-downs or Zoom meetings. So there you go. Every team in the top 15 has spent extensive time with Armand Membou, and guess who's in the top 15? Oh man, I listen. You've never heard me vouch for it, but like I'm gonna tell you this: if somehow, some way, Will Campbell is the first tackle off that board, man, trade up. Jesus Lord, because what I'm hearing, this is what I'm hearing. The word on the street with Membou is this: the Patriots are very, very interested in him, and get ready, hold on, strap on your seats. The Patriots are very interested in him. Jacksonville is very interested in him. But if they were to pass him up, I've heard he's not getting past the New York Jets. I do not want to see this guy in a Jets. I don't want to see Dart or Membou in Jets uniforms. Unbelievable. Scotty Joe says he almost beat Restrepo's 40-yard dash. Hey, bro, he's only 8 seconds off. 4.91 compared to Restrepo's second attempt was a 4.83. Wasn't that far off, was he? But man, listen, I've been hyping Membou up to y'all for months. I've been telling y'all this was the dude. Before the combine happened, I told y'all he's my OT1. And then the combine happened, and he's everyone's OT1 now. This, you know what it is? I'm going to tell you this what it is right now. It's Tristan Wirfs all over again, except Andrew Thomas was able to hold off Tristan Wirfs, as were a few other, like Jedrick Wills, somehow, some way. I don't know how. I don't know how they held off Tristan Wirfs. But this is what it looks like if Tristan Wirfs didn't get held off. I am not taking Tyler Warren at 13. Listen. I'm not taking Tyler Warren or Colston Loveson at 13. I think this is all because of Brock Bowers. This is the Brock Bowers effect. And here, I'm ready to tell you, neither one of them are Brock Bowers. Neither one of them are generational after the catch like Brock Bowers was clearly at the position coming out. I was vying for us to trade up for Brock Bowers last year because I was saying tight end's the next evolution of this offense. Before the interview with Mike McDaniel came out, I was saying this. I was preaching to Omar Kelly every 4 weeks on our podcast. And I knew what Brock Bowers would be in this offense. I'm good on Tyler Warren, man. If anything, if you can make Colston, listen, if you can make Colston Loveland, but why? Listen, this is why you're going to need to add another pick in between 48 and 98. I'm telling you, Mason Taylor, baby. Mason Taylor. That's the one. I'm telling you right now, Mason Taylor is going to be the one. Colston Loveland is a big slot. He's dynamic after the catch. He's getting better as a blocker, prototypical size. I know why Tyler Warren didn't test at the combine. Because his 40 wasn't going to be that great. I would rather take a Mason Taylor, a Harold Fannin, a Gunnar Helm. I would rather take one of these guys on day 2 or day 3. This is like the deepest tight end class in recent memory. So, yeah, I'm not taking a guy. I'm not taking a tight end in the top 15 unless you're on Brock Bowers' level, and neither one of these guys are. And I've talked about this multiple times. But back to Membou. Listen, this is the type of talent I would trade up for. Listen, I know Axel, the poet, says right here, he asked, can Patrick Paul play guard? No, man, he's too big. You don't want that in a phone booth. I'm going to tell you that right now. He's too big, and he doesn't move great in space. He's not going to be strong pulling. He's not going to be strong consistently having to climb to the second level. If you got to get out in space on a screen, he's not going to be great. So, yeah, no, Patrick Paul is like a tackle. That's it. You cannot play Paul at guard. So don't anyone who tells you Paul can play guard, I wouldn't trust their evaluation of film. He cannot play guard. He is built like a tackle. He is a tackle. That is what he is. So that's where I'm at with that. Now let's talk about this in the draft. Something I do want to talk about here. Are the Miami Dolphins going to wait until day 3 to take another quarterback? Now, it's obvious they've left a void at that quarterback 3 spot. Now, I'm sure they have. This is how I see it right now. The way I view it is this is where they're playing it. They're going to see what's available on day 2 and day 3. Now, I don't expect them to spend 48 or 98 on a quarterback. I don't at all. I am very weary of them with Quinn Ewers, because I've been telling y'all since September, that's a guy I know they're going to love. But where I'm at right now is it seems like it actually makes sense. They're not, like, they got Tyler Huntley on speed dial. They know they can get a third quarterback like that. But do they think a guy like Brady Cook out of Missouri, who has athletic upside, maybe a Curtis Rourke from Indiana, maybe a Seth Hennigan from Memphis? Curtis Rourke and Seth Hennigan were 2 guys that, you know, were vying for my court spot on my man crush list. You know, could they be looking at a Max Brosmer, maybe a Will Howard or Dylan Gabriel on day 3? I think Dylan Gabriel is going to fall. Like, I don't think Dylan Gabriel goes on day 2. I think there's 6 quarterbacks that are going to go. Actually, let me fix that. I think there's going to be 7 quarterbacks that go in day 2 in the first 2 days potentially. I think Ward, Dart, Sanders, Milroe, Tyler Show, Kyle McCord, and Quinn Ewers. I think those are the guys who have the shots to go in the first 2 days. I think when you talk about Cook, Rourke, Hennigan, Brosmer, Leonard, Will Howard, Dylan Gabriel, Graham Mertz, Donovan Smith from Houston, I think these are guys that are day 3 UDFAs. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. If you could get Seth Hennigan as a UDFA, if you get Curtis Rourke as a UDFA, sign me the hell up. Sign me the hell up. Now, I don't want Dylan Gabriel in the first 5 rounds, but I've been on record and I'll tell y'all again. Once we start getting into, like, you know, late round 5, round 6, round 7, you're looking for best value. If Dylan Gabriel's on the board, I'm not going to cry a river. I'm not a fan of Riley Leonard or Will Howard. If they take Riley Leonard or Will Howard late in the 5th or in the 6th or 7th, I'm not going to cry a river. But this seems like it's the plan. Let's see how day 2 and day 3 pan out. Because, you know, look at where their picks fall, right? When you look at where all their picks fall, that kind of is what makes sense, right? Like 116, 135, 150, 155. I think 116, 135, 150, 155, that's when they start considering. Round 4 to round 5, I think, is when they start considering. Like, Jalen Milroe isn't going to be on the board, but if he's on the board in round 4, how do you not take him? Right? Like, if Tyler Show or Kyle McCord are on the board at 116, I'd pull the trigger. Like I would take Kyle McCord at 116 all day, every day. Not even joke. Tyler Show, same thing. Let's value. But I think they might be gone by the third round. Both those guys. Quinn Ewers, I know NFL teams, the media and fans are not high on Quinn Ewers, but I know NFL teams are, especially after the combine. I don't think he's going to be there. I don't think he's going to be there at 116. But I could see them taking that. So this is what it's panning out to be. They're telling Huntley, it's kind of like what they did with Odell last year. Remember with Odell? They told him basically sit tight. Let's see how they knew what the parameters are going to be before the draft, but they said to him, let the draft play out. Kind of looks like they're taking the same approach this time with QB3 because they can get them through as the emergency quarterback. And remember, taking a quarterback in round 5, 6, or 7, or as a UDFA, this does not stop you from taking a quarterback next year. When you start getting in round 6 and 7, I've been telling y'all, these are glorified UDFAs. Just like when you get from 25 to 32, most of the time in an NFL draft, in the first round from 25 to 32 are glorified second round picks. Because not many teams have 25 first round grades, let alone 32. And this year's where a lot of people are falling in anywhere from the 14 to 18 range. So glorified. Now, speaking of quarterbacks, Zach Wilson, he spoke today to the media, as did a whole bunch of the new additions. It's quite interesting to actually how it all went down. But Zach Wilson, he said some interesting things today. He believes he's still a starter. So Zach Wilson, Miami Dolphins quarterback Zach Wilson, the number 2 pick of the 2021 draft by the New York Jets, will experience various types of levels of pressure if and when he takes the field for the Dolphins as the backup to starter Tua Tagovailoa. Wilson, with a good performance, could strengthen the job status of Dolphins general manager Chris Grier and coach Mike McDaniel, or with a bad performance. Wilson, who struggled in his 3 years with the Jets, could get them both fired. Dolphins backup quarterbacks have gone 3-9 in their starts under Mike McDaniel. If Wilson doesn't improve that .250 winning percentage, it'll reflect directly on Grier and McDaniel, and obviously not in a good way. That's a lot of pressure. Wilson is also under pressure to play well, so the Dolphins, who return 8 starters on offense and 6 starters on defense, can meet their playoff expectations. And Wilson is under pressure to succeed so he can pick up the pieces of a once promising career. He's optimistic McDaniel will help in that regard because of the work with Tagovailoa. Quote, "We all saw how the first couple of years went, and I don't necessarily think that's all on Tua, of course," Wilson said Monday during a Zoom call with local media. "You've seen the ability to get people that believe in you, and a stat that makes everything around him better. And he's played an extremely high level, so I don't think that's ever anything bad to be around or to see and learn from." By most accounts, Grier and McDaniel blew the backup quarterback selection last season by choosing between Skylar Thompson over Mike White. That failure, as the story goes, ultimately caused the Dolphins to finish 8-9 and miss the playoffs. Grier and McDaniel vowed to correct the backup quarterback oversight in the offseason. Quote, "I will tell you that every stone will be unturned at that position, including the draft," Grier said in January. Wilson, who signed a 1-year, $6 million contract, is a result of that exhaustive search. Dolphin fans are skeptical. They have good reason. Wilson is used to being a starter. He started 33 of 34 games for the Jets in 3 seasons. He served as Denver's backup to Bo Nix last season, but never played. Wilson, who hasn't played in a game in more than a year, has never experienced the stress of being a backup quarterback. As a backup quarterback, you often enter the game in a stressful situation after the starting quarterback has been injured, which has been the case for Tagovailoa 3 times in the past 3 seasons. The entire offense and perhaps the entire team or the entire stadium in Tagovailoa's case is in shock. You enter the game and everyone is immediately counting on you. Sometimes they're looking for someone to simply keep the ship afloat. Other times they need a hero. On the surface, Wilson doesn't fit either of those roles. His career stats are 23 touchdowns, 25 interceptions, and a 12-21 record. Thompson, the Dolphins' backup last season, also didn't fare well in that role last season. Thompson, the Dolphins' 2022 7th-round pick, showed promise as a rookie, but didn't play during the 2023 season because Tagovailoa stayed healthy. Thompson first entered a game in 2024 during the third quarter of the Buffalo game. The Dolphins were already trailing by the final score of 31-10. He finished 8 of 14 for 80 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and 73.5 passer rating. Things got worse during the first start the following week at Seattle. Thompson appeared totally unprepared while going 13 of 19 for 107 yards, 0 touchdowns, no interceptions, and an 82.6 passer rating. He was sacked 5 times and sustained a rib injury that landed him on the injured reserve list. What followed was a parade of backups that included Tyler Snoop Huntley, Tim Boyle, and C.J. Beathard. The Dolphins can't allow such a parade of backups again. None was particularly effective. Wilson doesn't regard being a Dolphins backup as a pressure situation. Quote, it's just the ability to step in and make the offense feel like nothing's changed. From a leadership standpoint, just command of the huddle, getting the guys the information they need on each and every play, just kind of not skipping a beat mentally of what's going on so that everyone feels comfortable that they are completely ready to do exactly what they've been doing. McDaniel was asked during the NFL scouting combine whether he preferred a veteran or a rookie as Tagovailoa's backup. He said he prefers some adept at passing and went on to say that either the draft or free agency could provide the answer. More importantly, he acknowledged that they need to get better at backup quarterback, saying it's on everybody's tip of the tongue. That needs to be a focus of ours, and it is. Wilson wasn't the first choice of the populace. Quarterbacks such as Marcus Mariota, who had best days in Tennessee and served as Washington's backup last season, or Jimmy Garoppolo, who had his best days in San Fran and served as the Rams' backup last season. Veterans who had a measure of success, including playoff victories, were the choices of fans and the media. Some even favored bringing back Huntley, who went 2-3 and 5 starts in 2024 and seemed to get better the more he played. The Dolphins, however, opted for Wilson, and the pressure is on. So a few things here. Number one, Huntley did not get better as time went on. Yeah, he was good against DTR and the lowly Browns, but after that, against the Jets, it was an absolute SHIT show. Now, Chris Grier, again, going back to my point earlier, they said that they will turn over every stone at the position, including the draft. So they're telling you they're going to draft someone. I just don't think it's going to be a high investment. I think at 116 is when you can start having the conversation. I think 13, 48, and 98, they're looking for guys that can slide in and be starters day one. But I think, like I said, once you get past 116, right? Once you get 116, 135, 150, 155, I think that's where they're in play, or they're just going to get another UDFA. Or they'll wait for someone at 224, 231, or 253, kind of like what they did with Skylar Thompson. But I think they're going to go a little higher than that if they do draft someone. Now, I'm expecting it all the way from 116 to UDFA. So now Zach Wilson also believes he's still a starter in the NFL. Like, that's another thing that he made clear today too. That he believes he's still a starter in the NFL. And, he said today, I still believe I can be a starter whenever the opportunity comes. So, I don't know. I've said this before. I don't think this is a guy who can come in and win games for you. You want someone that's adept at passing, Mike, then why'd you pick this guy? You were talking about a 250 winning percentage. Tua has over a 60% winning percentage. That's a big drop. I don't know. making Zach Wilson and a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, or UDFA quarterback your backup options, man, that's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out for him. And again, like Perkins pointed out, and like I pointed out, Zach Wilson has never, ever felt the stress of being a backup quarterback. You gave him $6 million guaranteed, and this guy's never proven himself to be a viable backup quarterback. He's never had to come in when a guy's been injured. He's never had to start due to a late scratch or a stressful situation. He's never shown he can come in and keep the ship afloat or elevate the guys around him as a replacement, either in-game or as a last-minute starter. But let's give him all that money. I think that's crazy. I think that's nuts. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, man, I just think that's really nuts. I think that's a tall ask. I mean, again, we're talking about unprovens. You know? You guys are acting like this is not you guys in the chat, but like, you know, the Dolphins are acting like this is a sure thing. It's crazy. It's crazy. Let me ask you this. We'll put another poll up right now, okay? I want to know in the chat if you believe Zach Wilson. I want to know in the chat if you believe Zach Wilson can come in and win games for this team. I want to know. Because right now, we've got 55% picked Higgins and Noel over Savion and Besh. So let's do this right now. Okay? Do you have faith Zach Wilson can win games as Miami's backup? Let's go. Hold on. Can win games? That's vague. Can stay above 500. Let's go. Do you have faith Zach Wilson can stay above 500 as Miami's backup if he has to play? In the chat right now, let me know. In the chat right now. By the way, smash that like button. Because I don't. Well, you know. Westbrook-Ikhine on McDaniel meeting and what he brings, and here's the Dolphins newcomers. Dolphins have paired several number 3 receivers with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle over the past 3 years, and none of them, not Cedric Wilson Jr., Braxton Berrios, or in particular Odell Beckham Jr., measured up to expectations. The Dolphins hope that changes with new number 3 receiver Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, an in his prime veteran who finished in the top 10 in the NFL in touchdown receptions with 9 while playing for the Titans last year. Westbrook-Ikhine said Monday that he could sense Mike McDaniel's excitement about the possibility when the two met recently. McDaniel was fired up, Westbrook-Ikhine said during an introductory Zoom session with reporters on Monday. The first thing I remember was the energy he had when we shook hands, dapped him up. It's awesome to feel wanted like that. At 6'2", Westbrook gives the Dolphins the type of size they've often lacked with receivers who line up alongside 5'10" Tyreek Hill and 5'10" Jalen Waddle. He also gives Miami an angular red zone threat, something they needed more of at wide receiver over the years after a 2023 trade for the 6'4" Chase Claypool failed to pay dividends. What the Dolphins are getting, Westbrook-Ikhine said, is a big body that they can use what God gave me, a guy to take advantage of opportunities, whether they're mismatches or whatnot. The key, he said, is finding open areas, being physical. I'm excited to see all the different ways McDaniel has to game plan and scheme stuff up. I know he has some ideas. Westbrook-Ikhine said caught a career high 9 touchdowns for Tennessee last season with 32 receptions for 497 yards, including a 98-yard touchdown against Minnesota, which was the league's longest reception of the season. His 9 touchdowns last season tied for 9th most in the league. He has played 5 seasons, all for the Titans, and has 126 catches for 1,773 yards, a sterling 14.1 yards per reception, with 19 touchdowns. He appeared in 78 games and started 39, including 9 starts each of the past 2 seasons. 87 of his 126 career receptions have gone for first downs. He was born in Lake Mary and went undrafted out of Indiana, where he had 144 receptions, 2,226 yards and 16 touchdowns in 52 games and 36 starts. It's going to be a great opportunity, he said. There's a bunch of weapons, a bunch of speed. I'm excited to find my role. Got a little history with Jonnu Smith. I played with him in Tennessee. Besides his big playability, size, and threat he presents in the red zone, Westbrook-Ikhine is a skilled blocker. That's a talent needed on the offense after River Craycraft left for Seattle. It's a gritty game, and wide receiver blocking, you have to find a way to make it work, he said. Blocking at receiver seems like a lost art. The Dolphins' top 4 receivers likely will be Hill, Waddle, Westbrook-Ikhine, and Malik Washington. D.S. Eskridge and Eric Ezukanma also remain under contract. So does 2024 7th-round pick Tagovailoa Washington, who's 5'10". He spent last year on the injured reserve. With any receiver room, it's important that everybody's accepting the role, Westbrook-Ikhine said. One game, one dude might shine. Another game, another dude might shine. More notes from today's introductory press conference. Ifeatu Melifonwu appears to have a good chance to start. He would have been a starter in Detroit last season if not for an injury that sidelined him for 14 games. While many players downplay the importance of starting, Melifonwu doesn't. Starting, he says, is very important. In 4 years in Detroit, I proved what I can do. Never had anything handed to me. I'm going to have to compete and earn the starting spot. As a starter, there are things I can bring to the offense and have an impact. Dolphins defensive back Brian Duker, the coach, defensive backs coach Brian Duker, coached Melifonwu in Detroit. He cited his own strengths as his size and speed, and coverage ability, and ability to tackle and blitz. I'm excited to see how they'll use me. The one negative, he missed 32 games in 4 seasons and had 5 stints on injured reserve. Sometimes it's luck, to be honest, he said, of injuries. You tackle someone and get rolled up on your ankle facing up, but there's some stuff I can do to prevent injuries going forward. 2 new linebackers, KJ Britt and Willie Gay Jr. said they haven't been told their roles. Gay's played both inside and outside linebacker for the Chiefs and Saints. I love inside, I love outside, he said. I look forward to seeing how I'm utilized. Britt, who started 11 games for Tampa Bay last season, said he hasn't been told if he will be a backup linebacker or be given a chance to compete with Tyrell Dodson for the starting job opposite of Jordan Brooks. He played a similar system in Tampa and is considered a good run defender. I've been playing linebacker since I was 5 years old. Alabama was a heavy run-oriented high school league that we were in. Stopping the run is something my head coach instilled in us. Larry Borom, who's mostly an offensive tackle for the Bears, said the Dolphins haven't told him if they plan to experiment with him at guard, where he has some experience. He's expected to primarily be a backup tackle with Miami, but that's fluid. I can do some of everything. He added he would be fine playing either position. So I've heard Larry Borom is going to play guard, left guard. Right? Specifically, I've been told to watch that Bills game. Now, once you get past, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, Westbrook, and Malik, there's a bit to be desired there, right? You don't know what Tagovailoa Washington is. D.S. Eskridge is okay. You can offer you a bit of as a return. And Eric Ezukanma just hasn't panned out to this point yet. So, man, that's another wide receiver is another quiet little maybe. They roll something on the 4th, 5th, or 6th, 7th round there too as well. We'll see how it plays out. But at safety, I mean, they've set themselves up. Or if Melifonwu and Ashton Davis stay healthy, you don't need to spend the 13th pick on Starks. You could be more comfortable picking, going Kenneth Grant or Will Johnson at 13. And then maybe you take him Akuba at 48 if he's on the board. They've set themselves up in that. Same thing what they've done at linebacker. I got a 3 takes update coming this week because I've heard of a linebacker they really like. But they put themselves in a position where they don't have to get a Jahad Campbell. Right? If Demetrius Knight, who I really love, is on the board at 98, you could pull the trigger. They've set it up really well. So, I like what they've done. I like how they've set it up. So, they filled voids, but with the voids they filled them with guys that are sufficient enough to start. But if the right guy at the right position in the draft falls in your lap, none of those guys are going to stop you from taking them. So, I like it. I like it, man. I like it a lot. Guys, I really need you to do me a favor. Smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe. We are under 3,000 away from 20K, where I'll be doing a 5-person giveaway. I want to do that, right? So right now, you guys are showing up in the chat. 60% of you do not think and do not have faith that Zach Wilson can stay above 500 as Miami's backup if he has to play. I've said this, if you draft a Tyler Show or Kyler McCord, don't be surprised if they beat this guy out. Now, politics due to that $6 million guaranteed contract will obviously come into play, but I can guarantee you those guys will give you plenty of reason to say, damn, we shouldn't have given that money to Zach, and we should have rolled with one of these guys as our 2 for this year, but we'll see. Guys, I will be back tomorrow. No finish line for the next 4 weeks, so we'll be doing filler shows in that spot. Be back with Neil on Thursday. So got a lot of content. We'll be dropping the guard big board this week, and then cornerback is next up after that, and then all hands on deck from where we go from there. We'll be doing at least 6 or 7 live big boards for you, while channel members and Patrons will get all the other big boards that don't make the cut and make the channel. They'll be getting access to them on Patreon and under the community tab for channel members only.